Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Kesubos Chaf Aleph. We begin on the Mishnah at Chaf Amud Beis, around 7 lines from the bottom. Back to the sugya of Kiyum Hashtar. We know that a document typically does not need to be certified once it has two Eidim signed on it. We assume it is legitimate, it is authentic, provided nobody challenges the authenticity of the shtar. But if, let's say, the borrower claims it's forged, the Chachamim require kiyum. You need to certify the shtar by way of the actual signatories themselves testifying about the authenticity of their signatures, or others testifying on their behalf, or perhaps simply by comparing their handwriting to handwriting found elsewhere in another shtar that has already been certified as authentic, and by doing so we are mekayim the current shtar as well. Now, we need two eidim to certify the chasima. But here comes an interesting question. When we are mekayim the chasima, suppose the aid steps forward and he says, look, this is my signature, it's my handwriting, it's legitimate, it's authentic. And the other aid likewise testifies to the authenticity of his signature. Here's the question: are they testifying regarding this signature per se, or is their testimony pertaining to the actual event depicted in the shtar? Two ways to look at it. Here comes an interesting machlekas. Says the Mishnah, we have Reuven and Shimon who both signed a shtar. Reuven steps forward and says, look, this is my signature. It's real, it's legitimate, it's authentic. And actually, I am familiar with the other signature as well. That's my friend Shimon. And Shimon as well gets up and says, this is my handwriting. And that's my fellow Reuven's signature. In this case, certainly we take it as true, because we have two Eidim, technically two Eidim per signature. Reuven is made on his signature together with Shimon, who's backing him up, and likewise Shimon is testifying directly regarding his signature, and he has Reuven as support as well. What about the following case? Reuven says, this is my signature. That's it. He stops there. Shimon likewise says, this is my signature. Stops there. So Reuven testifies about his, Shimon about his. That is not sufficient. They need to join up with somebody else to support their statement. This is Rabbi's Shita, who holds that when Reuven says, this is my signature, what he's really verifying is merely the signature itself. And Shimon likewise is merely verifying his signature. And the halacha is, we need two eidim to verify, two eidim to authenticate. He doesn't have two eidim. He only has himself on his signature, and Shimon himself for his signature. Right? So in this case, we don't have two eidim per signature, in contrast to the previous case. Here, Rabbi holds, Reuven has to find himself a friend who is familiar with this signature and can back him up. Shimon likewise needs to find somebody to join him and testify, in which way we'll have two eidim per signature. That's Rabbi's Shita, who holds that when an aid gets up and speaks about this being his signature, he's not discussing the event, he's not discussing the story or the facts in the shtar. He's just speaking about his signature. And therefore, he's the only aid regarding his signature. So he needs somebody to back him up. He needs two eidim. Likewise, Shimon, when he speaks about his signature being authentic, it's only the signature per se that he's speaking about. It's just him speaking about his signature. It's only one aid. You need two eidim per signature. That's Rabbi's Shita. The edus pertains to the signature per se. They disagree. They hold that when Reuben gets up, this is my signature. Shimon gets up and says, this is my signature. In reality, their testimony pertains to the story, to the event depicted in the star. Reuben, in effect, is saying, this story took place. Shimon gets up and says, this signature is authentic. He, in effect, is saying, this story took place. So we have two Eidim on the story. There we go, two Eidim. Perfect. And therefore it's enough. They don't need to find another fellow to support him. Ella, rather, Neman Adam Loimar, person is believed when he says, Zek Savyadi, this is my signature. Reuven speaks about his signature, Shimon speaks about his signature, but in reality they're pertaining to the story. So now the story has two Eidim to support it. Kisha Timtzi Loimar, when you'll really analyze and try to delve into the rationale behind this machlokes between Rebbe and the Chachamim, you'll come up with the following formula. They are arguing regarding how to relate to the signator's testimony. Is it pertaining to the signature per se, or is it pertaining to the event in the shtar? As we explained. According to Rebbe, Al Ksav Yadon Heimi Idim. When Reuven speaks about a signature, it's regarding the signature, not the event depicted in the shtar. In contrast to L'divrei Chachamim, according to them, Al Mana Shebishtar Heimi Idim. They're speaking about the mana, the money inside the shtar. They're discussing the story. So Reuven backs up the story, and Shimon backs up the story. Here we go. We have two Eidim to certify the authenticity of the shtar. Pshita, of course, obviously, this is the only way to learn the machlekes. What are you adding by giving this added elaboration? You can see it clearly from the Mishnah. Answers the Gemara, no. From the Mishnah itself, it wouldn't be so crystal clear. Ma'od, perhaps we would say, L'Rebbe Sefuki Misapkali. Rebbe is not really 100% sure which way to go. So he did, l'chumra. He took an extra precaution, l'chumra, but really he's not really certain. Iyal ksav yadam heim, even if they're testifying regarding the ksav yad per se and not the event, or perhaps they refer to the event. And since we're not really sure, we always have to err on the side of caution. You have to be machmir. V'nafkamina. What would be the difference? Meaning, suppose Rabbi is really not sure which way to go. So in our Mishnah, Rabbi had a chumrah, because the edus pertains to the actual signature, not to the story in the shtar. So each signature needs two edim. That was a chumrah in the Mishnah. And likewise, here comes another chumrah. Rabbi has to take into account the other possibility, that no, the aid is being made on the event, on the facts that are depicted in the shtar. And therefore, heicha de mischad minayu. Suppose, in contrast to the case in the Mishnah where both Eidim were alive and well, both signatories. Let's say one of them passed away. We have Reuben and Shimon. Shimon passed away. The halacha is that when Eidim present a case, Eidim come to testify. The pasuk says, "Al pi shnayim Eidim yakum davar." The verdict has to be brought about by two Eidim equally, which means that each aid, so to speak, has to produce half the verdict. But I can't, overdo it. I, as a single aid, can't just encroach on my other aid's, territory. I can't produce 3/4 of the verdict. It has to be pretty much even, 50-50, right? So let's say we have Reuben and Shimon who signed the shtar, and Shimon passed away. He's no longer here. Now we're trying to be mekayim, we're trying to certify the shtar by way of authenticating the actual chasimos. So if Rebbe would be certain that when Reuven gets up and speaks about his, having signed the shtar, it's an edus pertaining to the signature and not the event, so then it would be pretty easy to produce this certification. How? Remember, we need two edim per signature. Reuven recognizes his signature and is also going to testify regarding his colleague's signature. Right? Familiar with that signature as well, it's authentic. So you have one aid, Ruvain, who's made on his own signature and on Shimon's signature. Then he needs another aid to join him. He has to find another fellow. Let's call him Levi, who also has first-hand familiarity with Ruvain and Shimon's signatures. So he joins Ruvain regarding Ruvain's signature. He joins Ruvain to back him up regarding Shimon's signature. So you have 2 Eidim per signature. We have Ruvain and Levi on Ruvain's signature, Ruvain and Levi on Shimon's signature. So pretty much Ruvain is just producing half the verdict. And likewise Levi. That's perfect. But that's only if indeed Rebbe was certain regarding the mechanics of certification, that you are referring to the signatures. But if there's any possibility to the contrary, that perhaps the other approach is correct, the Chachamim's approach is the way to go. Almana shebeshtar heimidim. When I testify about my signature, I'm not just speaking about the scribble, I'm speaking about the event, the story. I'm testifying to the authenticity of the story of the event depicted in the shtar. In that case, we're in trouble when Shimon passes away. If one aid passes away, say Shimon has passed away. It's not enough that Reuven joins with Levi. He needs 2 more people aside from himself. I'll explain why. Reuven has to go find another 2 people, Levi and Yehuda. To go testify regarding Shimon's chasima. You know why? Because let's adopt the Chachamim's approach to things. When Reuben gets up and says, I signed the shtar, what is he really saying? This story occurred. The story is true. Right? So you already produced his half of the verdict. He's one of the 2 Eidim, and he's sort of supporting half the story. That's how we look at it. He's supporting half the story. He's authenticating half the story. So he took 50% already. And now when we go over to Shimon's chasima, Shimon is not here, how do we certify his chasima? So now if Reuven will come along and join up with Levi to support, to verify Shimon's chasima, so again Reuven is in the picture. Again Reuven is in the mix. It's Reuven and Levi verifying Shimon's half of the story. So he pretty much took 3/4 of the cake. He took his half, that was on his own. And then when he joined Levi to support, to verify Shimon's chasima, again he's here, taking part in certifying the shtar. So he's doing 50% of Shimon's half as well. Shimon is is Reuven's counterpart on the shtar. So Reuven is taking his half plus being the catalyst to the verification of Shimon's chasima as well. And Shimon is the one that's meant to produce half the story, meant to verify half the story. He's taking half of that as well. So he took over 3/4 of the game, which is illegal, which is unacceptable. Each aid can only produce half the verdict, half the outcome. But that's only because we're concerned about the Chachamim's approach to things. That when he speaks about signatures, he's not speaking signatures per se, he's speaking about the story. So when Reuven speaks about his signature, he's verifying his half, his perspective, his element of the story, 50% of the story. And then when he goes and he joins Levi in verifying Shimon's half of the story, again he's taking over part of that and producing part of that outcome as well. So he's doing 3/4 of the story. That's not acceptable. So again, we need 2 more people, 2 new people, Levi and Yehuda, to refer to Shimon's chasima. Leave Reuven out of it. He's already used up his rights. He's done his half. That's it. He's out. We need 2 more people to come take care of Shimon's chasima lahoyd olav dimken, because otherwise kanafik nechi ruva de mamayna. Nechi ruva means minus 1/4. The mamayna of the total, mamain here, the total money, 3/4 of the total outcome of the total, verdict. Kanafik will be produced apuma dechat sahada based on the testimony of 1 aid, and that's not acceptable. So if we adopt that approach, we'll have to have 2 more Eidim. And perhaps that's Rebbe's approach to things. We always go l'chumrah. We're not sure which way to approach Kiyum. Is it a reference to the signatures per se or to the event? And he's always going l'chumrah. When they're alive, like in the case of the Mishnah, we go l'chumrah. We say, we speak about these signatures, and each signature needs 2 Eidim. You have Reuven and Shimon as the actual Eidim. No, that's not enough. They need somebody to help them out. Reuven has to be supported by Levi to verify his Reuven's signature. Shimon needs Levi as well to verify Shimon's signature. We need 2 Eidim per signature. That's when they're alive. We hear Rebbe goes l'chumrah. As opposed to the Rabbanim who say, no, they speak about the event. Reuven is testifying to the authenticity of the event, and so is Shimon. 2 Eidim on the event. You don't need more than them. So Rebbe disagrees. He goes l'chumrah. We need to verify their signatures. 2 Eidim per signature. And likewise, in the case when one passes away, once again, he goes l'chumrah. No. Maybe it's the event that's being referred to, in which case it'll turn out that he's producing 3/4 of the event. You need 2 more Eidim to equalize things. Is that the correct approach to Rebbe? No. Kamash B'lan. The Chiddush of the Gemara is no. Rebbe was certain. The Rebbe Mivshad Pshitale. Rebbe was absolutely clear on this. That what? That when an Eid testifies regarding his chasima, it's the chasima that he's speaking about. And that's why Rebbe says in the Mishnah, Reuven needs somebody to help him out. He needs Levi to come join him to testify regarding Reuven's chasima, because you need 2 people per chasima. That's Kiyum, needs 2 Eidim. And likewise, Shimon needs 2 Eidim on his chasima as well. So over there it's a chumrah. And in the case where one fellow passed away, we only have 1 Reuven, 1 Eid remaining, 1 Eid surviving. In this case, actually Rebbe will come up with a kula. You don't need 2 new, fresh Eidim on the scene. Why? Because as we explained, the Eidus pertains to the signatures. And you need 2 Eidim per signature. Reuven is familiar with his own and Shimon's signature. So that's 1 Eid per signature. Then he needs Levi to come join him and help him testify regarding Reuven's signature and help Reuven regarding Shimon's signature. So basically, Shimon really only produced half the outcome. So in this case, Rebbe is lakula. In contrast to the Chachamim who say, we speak about the event. When Reuven gets up and testifies to the authenticity of his signature, he's really backing up the event. So he already took off half the event. He already produced half the event. Now he can't go ahead and speak about Shimon's signature because that's overstepping his boundaries. But according to Rebbe, that's not an issue. Bein lekula, bein lechumra, whether this approach produces a kula, as in the case of the mace, the Shimon who's mace. Bein lechumra, whether in a case where it produces a chumra, like in the case of the Mishnah, when they're both around. According to Rebbe, we need much more Eidim than the Chachamim, because you need 2 Eidim per signature. This is Rebbe's approach. So that's the conclusion. You have a star, which was challenged. It needs verification. You need to certify the chasimas. We need 2 Eidim to do that. Everything in Bezdin takes place through 2 Eidim. Question: are the Eidim speaking about the event, or speaking about the signature per se? Chachamim say the event. Rabbi says the signature per se. And therefore, according to the Chachamim, when they're both around, all we need is Reuven and Shimon, the Eidim themselves, who sign, because they're both testifying to the authenticity of the actual story depicted in the shtar. We have 2 Eidim, that's it. That's all we need. Whereas if one passed away, now we need 2 fresh Eidim on top of Reuven. Reuven will back up his half of the event, and then we need another 2 Eidim to back up Shimon's part of the event. Reuven can't get involved in the other side of the story because then he's overstepping his boundaries. According to Rebbe, it's all flipped around. we speak about the Chasimos per se. And that's what you're trying to be Mekayim. The signatures are real, authentic, are legitimate. So when they're both alive, Rebbe says, we need to make sure we have 2 Eidim per signature. That's a Chumrah. When one passes away, here Rebbe comes out with a Kula. Reuven's Chasima needs two Eidim. Shimon's Chasima needs 2 Eidim. So Reuven can testify regarding his and Shimon's, and all he needs is another Eid to come join him, to back him up on his own Chasima, and back him up on Shimon's Chasima. So in effect, Reuven produced half the outcome, and the other Eid, call him Levi, that just came by and helped him, produced the other half. So it's 50-50, it's perfect. How do we know this is true? That indeed, Rebbe is certain that this approach is correct. You have 2 people signed in a shtar, one passed away. So Reuven speaks about his Chasima, but Shimon is no longer alive, so we need 2 fresh people, Levi and Yehuda, to say Eidos regarding the Chasima of Shimon. That's the Rabbanon's approach. Bazu, in this type of case, Rebbe L'Kula, Rebbe will be a Kula. He doesn't need 2 fresh Eidim, as we explained. V'Rabbanon L'Chumra, according to Rabbanon, it's a Chumra. We need 2 fresh Eidim, lest Reuven overstep his boundaries and produce more than half the outcome. So it's clear that, indeed, this situation is dependent upon Rebbe and the Rabbanon. So according to Rabbanon, which is the Psak Halacha, we need 2 fresh Eidim. Let's say we don't have access to 2 fresh Eidim. What do? We have Reuven, the survivor, and we have, let's say, another Levi who's going to help us out. We don't have Levi and Yehuda. So how do we certify the shtar? Is there a solution? Yes, there is. If we don't have 2 new Eidim, Elachad, only 1. What do we do then? Amar Baye. Here is a practical solution. Lichtayv chasimas yadei achaspa. If you want to avoid, having Reuven involved, and then overstepping his boundaries and taking more than his share, this is what you do. Lichtayv chasimas yadei achaspa. Have Reuven just jot down his signature on a piece of pottery, v'shadlei bebeidina, and hand it to the bezdin. So they know that it's Reuven's signature. They don't need him to testify. They saw he signed this piece of pottery. So now they compare it to the signature on the document, and they certify it without his input. He doesn't need to testify regarding his signature. It's been verified by default. So once that's done, he can now contribute to Shimon's verification as well, because he's not overstepping, he's not taking more than his share, he hasn't done anything yet. Then he goes along with Vahai and this other fellow that I found on the street, and they testify on the other fellow's signature and Shimon's signature, Shimon who's no longer here. So now you're good. Now, just for some good hearty advice, the Gemara says only have him sign on a piece of pottery, which doesn't allow for adding any more stipulations and details on top of that signature. But don't write on a piece of parchment, because Dilma, perhaps perhaps a person maybe a bit dishonest might actually find that parchment with your name on it and add the world. The cost of might the boy and add whatever he says fit. You owe me $1 million with your signature. But Tanana, we know that such a document does have legal value. Let's say Shimon produces an IOU from Reuven, written in Reuven's handwriting, that he owes Shimon's money. He can collect with it, although not like a regular shtar, but he can collect with it. He can collect free and available properties, as opposed to a typical shtar which has eidim, which allows you to collect from properties which have been sold off, etc. Not this type of shtar, but it's still enough to collect with it. So be careful when you sign your name. Don't allow for any forgeries. Okay, so what's the conclusion? We adopt their approach to the sugya. Pshita, of course, yachad v'rabim, when there's machlekes between an individual and a multitude, such as over here, it's Rebbe against the Rabbanon. Halacha kirabim, of course, we adopt you Rabbim. Maudatema, perhaps I would say here it's different. Halacha kirabim mechavei roi. There is a known formula which says we follow Rebbe when he disagrees with his colleague, and perhaps in this case I would say afilu mechavei rav, when he's in dispute with his many colleagues, Kamashmon, the Chiddush is no. When it's a Yochad v'Rabbim, we follow the Rabbim, even though there's Rebbe involved. Amalei, so there was a question asked of Rabbi Yehuda. Some say it was Rav China bar Chiel, Rabbi Yehuda. V'amila, some say it was Rav Huna bar Yehuda who asked the Rabbi Yehuda. V'amila, some say it was Rav Chia bar Yehuda who asked the Rabbi Yehuda. Here's the kasha. Umi amar Shmuel hachi, is that so? That according to Shmuel, we paskin like the Chachamim, that what? That when an aid certifies his signature, he's really speaking about the event taking place, depicted in the shtar. And therefore, all you need is Reuben and Shimon to get up and say, this is our signatures, and we're done. Because in effect, we have two Eidim on the event, on the details, on the story in the shtar. Umiyar Mashmol Hachi, is that so? V'ahu shtar, there was that document, the Nafek Miveidino de Marshmol, which was certified in Marshmol, in Shmol's Bezdin. And how was the certification worded? Vavaksibe, which had the following text. So Rav Anan bar Chia. So there were two Eidim on the shtar, Rav Anan bar Chia and Rav Chanan bar Rabba. There were two Eidim, and the Hempek, it's called Hempek, the certification stated as follows. The reason why we certified is because Rav Chanan bar Chia, since Rav Chanan bar Chia arrived, va'asid achasimus yodei, and testified regarding the legitimacy and the mitos, the authenticity of his signature, and also regarding his colleague's signature. So he has to testify on his own and his friends. Who was the other aide? His name was Rav Chanan bar Rabba. So that happened. In addition to the fact that the Asr of Chanan bar Rabba, and after Rav Chanan bar Rabba also came, the other aide arrived, Va'asr, and he testified on his own and his colleague. Achasimus Yadei, on his own signature, and on his colleague's signature as well. Umanai, who was the other aid of Anan bar Chia. So now we have two aidim per signature. That sounds like Rebbe's approach to things. Ashrenui. So we certified it. V'kaiminuhi kedachazi, and we were makayim it as we saw fit, as it had been verified and certified. Bottom line is, this is based in of Shmuel. Shmuel paskin like a chachamim. You don't need two eidim per signature, because remember the fellow was speaking about the event in the shtar. So one aid speaks about the event, and Shimon speaks about the event. So you have two eidim on the event. That's all you need. Why do we need two eidim per signature? Amar lei, so Rabbi Yehuda responded, he was taking extra precaution. Why? Hahu shtar de yasmi hava. That shtar belonged to the orphans. And Shmuel was concerned that perhaps, if it's not done in the best way, there's a slight chance that later on they'll have some trouble collecting with it. Shmuel was concerned based in Toin. Perhaps they'll run into a unlearned bezdin. Shmuel figured perhaps there's somebody out there that holds like Rebbe, typically we paskin like Rebbe when he's in disagreement with his colleague, but not when he's in disagreement with the multitudes. That's the typical approach. But in this case of the Kiyum Shtars, perhaps we make exception for whatever reason. Afilu Mechavei Rav will paskin like Rebbe, despite the fact that there was a rabbin against him. In which case, we require two eidim per signature. They won't allow the Yisayimim to collect with their shtar. The Yisayimim won't be able to fend for themselves. Savar, he figured, let me do something extra for them. Avad Raf, let me do something extra. This way the Yisayimim will never lose out. So indeed, this was not required. Al Pidin, it was something extra credit for the Yisayimim. Amar Vida Mashmo. Interesting Shaila. So we have the aide who came and testified. Look, this is my signature. It's real. It's a real deal. The Dayanim, hearing this, certified. They stamped it as certified. And they signed on that certification. We have, let's say, 3 Dayanim who proclaimed that the Eidim had testified, verified, and authenticated, and therefore we are certifying the shtar. Boom, 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 3 Dayanim. A while later, the Leiva challenges. He says this whole thing is one big forgery. Eid v'dayin mitztarfen. You can combine an eid and a dayan to support the legitimacy of the shtar, even though really the eid speaks about his testimony, his signature, and the dayan is merely speaking about the dayan's, the judge's, certification on that shtar. It's really two different things. They keep it mitztaref to get the shtar back on track. Amar Rabbi Bar Chama, this is an amazing halacha. Kama ma'al yahashmaita, look how great this halacha is. Even though really they're speaking, different languages, but the eid and the dayan, two eidim, can revitalize the shtar. Amar Rava. Rava doesn't like this. Ma'mal yusa. What's so great about this halacha? In fact, it's not even true. Ma'idaka masit sahada. The testimony being offered by the aid, this is my signature, like masit dayana, is unrelated to what the dayan is speaking about. Speaking about his certification, which came after the shtar was written. Two different things. Ma'idaka masit dayana. And the edus presented by the dayan pertaining to his certification, like Hamasid Sahada, is unrelated to what the aid is speaking about. You can't connect apples and oranges. Eloki Asa Rami Bar Yecheskel, rather when Rami Bar Yecheskel came, Amar, he said, don't pay attention to this halacha. Loi Satsi Tzinhu. Don't pay attention, don't pay heed, Lahani Klali, to these bundles of halacha. Is the Kail Yehuda Achid that my brother Yehuda collected, Mishmei de Shmuel, the name of Shmuel. It's unreliable. Ikla Ravanoi, Achvad Rav Chia Baba, Ravanoi, the brother of Rav Chia Baba, came by the Mizban Sumsimi to purchase some sesames. But Amar Hachi, and he said, Amar Shmuel. V'Amar, and he said, Hachi Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said as follows: Eid v'dayin mitztarf, and you can combine the eid and the dayin. Amar Meimar, wow, this is amazing. Kama ma'al yahashmaita, this is a really amazing halacha. Amar li Rav Ashla, Meimar got an earful from Rav Ashi. Mishum de kalsa avua de imach, just because your mother's father, who happened to be Rami Bar Chama, praised this halacha previously. Right? Because he liked it. So you're also towing the line. At nami mekasasla, you're also praising it. This whole halacha is not really true. Kfar percha, Rava already negated it. You can't compare the eid to the dayan. There are different tracks, speaking different languages. They don't combine. Amar Rav Safra, Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta, Amar Rav Huna. Amar Losam had a different girsa. It was Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav. What is the halacha? As we explained, in order to certify your shtar, the three dayanim, the bezin, has to have familiarity with the chasimes, whether it's personal first-hand familiarity or by way of hagadas eidos, that two eidim came along and testified as such, as we learned before. So we have three dayanim, shloisha sheyashvu l'kayim es hashtar. Three dayanim sitting down to certify a shtar. Shnai makirin chasimois eidim. Two of the three have first-hand recognition. They know that these signatures are legitimate. So Reuven and Shimon have first-hand knowledge. Ve'echad eni makir Levi, their colleague, does not have first-hand knowledge. He doesn't recognize the chasimus. So how did they go about this? We need three signatures for the kiyum. Actually chasmu. So before they actually signed the certification, so they wrote up the text. We, the bezin, are certifying the legitimacy of the shtar, and they have three chasimas. So before they actually signed, after they already wrote the text, but before signing, it's still early enough in the process. Me'idin b'fanav, so the two eidim, the two dayanim, I should say, Reuven and Shimon will now testify, will present their knowledge to their colleague Levi v'chaisim, and bring him into the fold. Now he has, knowledge as well through them. He can join them and sign the certification. But mishachasma, once they have already signed, and then they turn around to Levi, would you join us? And he says, what do you mean? I have no idea what's going on here. Ein me'idim b'fanav v'chaisim, it's too late. They can't anymore present their knowledge to him and have him join them because they have signed. They have put their name on the kiyum of the bezin before there was a bezin in the know. It's untruth. It's a lie. So before they sign, they have to confirm that their colleague is in the know. Otherwise, they have to first tell him about it, bring him in the know, and then they could all sign together. But apparently, the fact that they've already written up the text of the kiyum, that's not an issue. Really? Can they write it up before knowing? This certification presented by Dayanim, the nichtav, which was even written, even the text of the certification was written before they had knowledge, that's no good. Before the Edom presented and showed and testified regarding the authenticity of their signatures, so if they actually have already written the text of the certification before they've received the Edom, psula, you can't use it. The mechzik is shukr, it appears like a lie. Even just to write the text, look, we know that this is legitimate, even to write that is a sheker. Achanami here as well. Before the dayanim, all three of them are in the know, you can't even write up that text. Mechzik is shukr, looks like something untruth. Ella ema, rather, let's reword the halacha. They all have to be fully cognizant before they start even writing the text. Actually, kosru. If it's still before they wrote the text, mi'idin b'fanav v'choisem, they can testify before their colleague, Dayan, Mr. Levi, bring him in the know, and he'll join them. Mishakosva, what they've written up the text of the certification, us Dayanim, us Bezin are fully in the know, it's too late. They can't go ahead and say their edus to him and bring him in, because they should not have even written that text before the entire Bezin was on board. Says the Gemara, Shema minot las. We can actually derive three halachas from this halacha that we just mentioned. Three aspects of Chiddush. Number one, Shema minot, we learn from here, Eid Nasa Dayan. Reuben and Shimon, the two, Dayanim, had testified to Levi as per the legitimacy of the Chasimas, right? So they were really serving the role of Edom. Suddenly they switch roles. They turn into Dayanim. Switch hats. You can do that. An Ed can turn into a Dayan. A person isn't a one-dimensional being. 1 second I can be an Ed, and I can turn around and be a Dayan in the same court case, so to speak. The same procedure. Ushmamina, another halacha we learn. Dayanin hamakirin chasimus yidei Edom. If a Dayan has first-hand knowledge, he recognizes, the aid's signature. You don't need an aid to come and testify before me and offer me that information. I already know firsthand. What's the chiddush? Rashi says, well, don't think that, you need Haggadas Eidus for the Dayan to act upon, the story. Even if the Dayan has first-hand knowledge, that's enough. You don't need to be presented by testimony from Edom. Ushma, the third thing we learn from here is Dayanim she'ein makir chasimis de'edim, and a judge who's not familiar with the chasimis, tzrichen lahoid b'fnei kol echad ve'echad. The Edom have to verify this directly to each Dayan, personally. Meaning, the fact that 2 out of 3 Dayanim have that knowledge, that's not enough. The Edom have to go ahead and inform all the Dayanim, just like in our story. The fact that 2 Dayanim were familiar, that's not enough. We need edus to the third fellow as well to bring him in the know. So these 3 concepts have been derived from the halacha that we learned. Maskefler of Ash, he has a kasha. 1 I agree with, but 2 I'm not so sure. And likewise 3 I'm not so sure. Bishlam Eid Nasa Dayan, the first concept, that an Eid can turn into a Dayan, he can switch roles, of course, that's pretty clear. Shaminim Minah, it's pretty clear from this halacha. Because the Dayanim are testifying to their colleague and then sitting down and certifying and switching into the role of Dayan. That's pretty clear. Ela Dayanim, but the other halacha, Dayanim Amakirin Chasimis Edom. If a Dayan has first-hand knowledge, he recognizes the aid. And the Chasimis Adeid. You're telling me ain't tzrichen lahoid b'fneim? Nobody has to testify before him. You can just act upon his knowledge. Perhaps not really, but here it's different. Dilma lo'olam emelach tzrichen. Perhaps typically, yes, we need Haggadas Eidus in order for the Dayan to conclude and to act upon that information. V'shani yacha, perhaps here it's different to call mekayma Haggadah b'chad. Because remember, the third Dayan, Levi, he received Haggadas Eidos. He was informed by his colleagues, who at that point was serving, or performing in the role of Edom, right? So Haggadah in concept was fulfilled in this Din Torah. So perhaps that's enough. Bezdin cannot issue a verdict without Haggadas Eidos. But here there was an Haggadas Eidos, at least to one of the Dayanim. So I'm not so sure about your conclusion regarding that. And the third item that you mentioned, Dayanim she'ein makir chasimus de Edom. Dayanim don't have personal first-hand knowledge of the chasimus. Tzrichen lahoid ifnei kol echad ve'echad. Then the Edom have to come testify to each Dayan. You can't just, address two and have the third one just join them, by the way. Sort of latch on to his friends. And you know about it? Okay, that's enough for me and I'll join you. That's not enough. That's what you're trying to derive from this halacha, the fact that they had to go ahead and incorporate him as well and testify to him and inform him. Dilma, perhaps, typically I'll tell you, ein tzrichen. Perhaps you don't need all the dayanim in the know. 2 out of 3 is enough for the third to join them. Here it's different. You know why you had to specifically approach the third fellow? The loikam makayim haggadah club, because otherwise there would be no haggadas eidos, which is a critical component of the Bezdin procedure. So basically, Rav Ashi supported the first item. We see that a person who played the role of aid can turn into a dayan. That's pretty clear from our story. But the other aspects were not so clear. Yosef Rav Abba. So Rav Abba was sitting and was saying over this chiddush, the aid nas a dayan, that a person can play the role of aid and turn into a dayan. Esri Rav Safra Rav Abba. Here's a kasha from our Mishnah, where we seem to see otherwise. You can't play both positions. Ra'u Shloisha. We're speaking about the new moon. 3 dayanim, 3 judges. Notice the new moon at the beginning of the month. Vein Bezdin, they were part of the Sanhedrin, who are empowered to be Mekadesh the Chodesh. So how did they go about it? Yamdu Shnayim. 2 of these 3 dayanim get up. V'yeshiva mechavreim etzal yachad. And they bring 2 of their colleagues, from the rest of the the Bezdin, and take 2 of them and sit them down near the Yachid, the third fellow here. Right? We started with 3 dayanim who saw the fresh new moon. 2 dayanim get up, will serve as Edom, leaving behind the third fellow. Let's call him Levi. Then they call over 2 more people from the other side, from the Sanhedrin, sit them down next to Levi. So we have 3 dayanim sitting. They will serve as the Bezdin. And the 2 fellows who are standing, Reuven and Shimon, v'yo'idu b'fneim, will testify before them, v'yo'imru mekudesh ha'chodesh mekudesh. This will allow the 3 dayanim sitting to declare mekudesh ha'chodesh, the initiation of the new month. Why? Because Levi on his own cannot create kiddush ha'chodesh. You need a bezdin. But according to you, that an aid could turn into a dayan. Why do you have to go through this entire procedure? To get up, play the role of Edom, that's it. They can't turn back into Dayanim. They could. Let them all stay seated in their places. Make Kiddush HaChodesh. Reuven and Shimon will turn to Levi and say, look, we saw the new moon, and we're ready for Kiddush HaChodesh. Why do they have to testify to Levi? That's a discussion in Rosh Hashanah, because they saw it at night, so they have to sort of revamp the scene by day. Okay, that's a discussion in the Rosh Hashanah. The bottom line is, they saw the new moon. They can serve as Edom and as Dayanim. We don't have to bring over new people. Eid Nasa Dayan. Amar Leiser Abba responds, Afla Didikashili. You know what? Bingo, I had the same question. And who did I present this question to? I asked it to the Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel Bar Marta. And he took the question further up. Rav Yitzchak, he took it to Rav Huna. And Rav Huna took it further up the chain. Rav Huna the Chia Bar Rav. Chia Bar Rav asked it to Rav. And this was the answer from Rav. Va'amarlu, and he responded to them, Hanach la'edus ha'chodesh da'araisa. He's speaking about edus ha'chodesh. That's minat Torah. Minat Torah, we're more machmer. Eid is an eid, a dayan is a dayan. Don't mix and match the 2 things. Each person has his own distinct role to play. You can't mix them up. And once you've tag yourself as an aid, you can't serve in the role of a dayan. The Kiyum Shtar is the Rabbanon, as opposed to our sugya, it's just certification of a shtar, which is only required with the Rabbanon. With the Torah, you don't need certification. The Eidim and the shtar are fully believed. Kiyum Shtar is with the Rabbanon, who are more flexible, and even an aid can turn into a dayan. Okay, so in conclusion, how are we mekayim a shtar? We have Rebbe's approach, which is al ksav yodam he me'idim. The Eidim are coming to verify the actual signatures. According to the Rabbanon, al monish b'shtar me'idim. They're verifying the story in the shtar, and therefore, in the case when the signators are still around, or chai, they're alive, Reuven and Shimon. So according to Rebbe, it's going to be a chumrah. Reuven needs somebody to support him in testifying regarding the authenticity of his own chasim. Shimon as well needs somebody to support him. By the way, they can use each other, meaning Reuven can testify about his own and about Shimon's, and Shimon can testify about his own and Reuven's. But as long as you have two eidim per chasim. According to Rabbanan, no. Reuven and Shimon are enough. Reuven is speaking about the event in the shtar, and so is Shimon. You have two eidim on the event. So in this case, Rebbe is machmer, the Rabbanan are mekel. What if one of the eidim passed away? We only have Reuven as survivor. Shimon is not here. In this case, according to Rebbe, it's a kula. Same as before. Reuven will be made on his chasima and on Shimon's chasima. So he took care of sort of half the shtar, and he'll get Levi, another fellow, to come along and support Reuven's chasima and Shimon's chasima. So you have two eidim for Reuven's chasima, two eidim for Shimon's chasima. You're good to go. So really, you only need one stranger to come along and help him out. According to Rabbanan, it's not enough. Why? Reuven gets up and speaks about his part of the shtar. He's speaking about the event, half the event. So he's done. That's it. He's out of bezdin. He can't continue farther, because otherwise he'll be overstepping his boundary. You can only produce half the result per aid. So how do we verify the other half of the story? We need two new people, Levi and Yehuda, to take care of that. Let's say you don't have two more people. How do you get around this? Simple solution. Have Reuven write his chasima on a piece of pottery, dafka pottery, otherwise it can lead to forgery. Send it to Bezdin. They'll certify his part of the story, and then he can join Levi and back up the other signature on the shtar. We pass like the Chachamim. Shmuel was machmer by the shtar of the Yisraelim to address any possible future concerns. Can an aid and a dayan combine? No. We have to be careful that whatever we do does not even appear like sheker. That's the next sugya. And an aid can turn into a dayan, but only in matters pertaining to dinim de rabbanon, such as kiyum shtaros, which is our sugya. All the best to you, and much hatzlacha.